Boston Red Sox are world champions. This is going to be a tough play. What? The Cubs winning the World Series. Bryant makes the play. It's over. And the Cubs have finally won it all. 8-7-10.
All right, welcome to the Triple Shot Sports Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Combs. All right, so Wayne G has decided to take a step back from the show so that he can focus more on his duties with RTF Sports Network and growing his Infinity Sports podcast. Me personally, I'd like to thank Wayne for stepping in for the first couple of episodes and giving me the ability to get this thing off the ground. I wish him nothing but the best, and I know we will certainly do something to partner our two shows in the future. That being said, I'm very happy to have Soup Boss Chad Lounder, who has decided to step in. I feel like we worked well when he was on, and we have the same aspirations with the show as we talked offline. And that's to bring you the absolute best show on sports radio, hands down. So, welcome, Chad.
Hey, man. I'm happy to be back on. Thank you so much. I thought after the Colin Cowherd stuff last week, you would have had zero desire to put me on. So I'll just chalk it up to Wayne walking away. So you were kind of desperate, I guess, huh?
No, it had nothing to do with that. I just enjoy beating up on Boston sports fans every week. So I was happy to have you back on, to be honest with you.
No, I guess that's charity in some way, shape, or form. I don't know.
So we've got the upcoming season, and they're starting all these training camps. And Chris Bryant was one. There are a bunch of voices coming out. I know Mike Trout was another big one where they're talking about they were having a whole lot of troubles already with the testing. I don't know. I think by now they've already gotten everybody tested and it's finally gone through and they're finally starting to pick up the pace. But Chris Bryant had a great point. If you can't get the stuff right now when they're all in their own clubhouses and they're all only playing against each other and practicing with each other, how are you going to get this right when they're playing the season and they're on the road?
Yeah, when they're on the road, you're going to really have to be smart about how you travel. I think it's going to be travel more than when you get to the field, because I think that you can actually show up to a field and be completely isolated off to yourself and could be completely separate from the other team. What I don't understand as someone who grew up playing sports is how are you going to, you can isolate them all you want, but they spit, they high five, they sweat. Like, you can't, it's a natural thing when you've grown up playing the game. That's what I'm actually more concerned about, more than like the travel aspect or anything like that. How are you going to stop? Like, I'm watching these Red Sox games against each other. They're not really playing hard, so they're just kind of out there. It's more like batting practice, fielding practice, doing some things. But the first time a guy slides into second base to try to break up a double play and the shortstop falls on top of him and they're both covered in sweat, what are you going to do? You think testing it will stop players from slamming into each other?
Well, no, but you know what? It's like me at home. If I'm at home with my family, I'm still hugging and giving them a kiss because I know we're all healthy and we don't have it. We're not showing any sign. Maybe we haven't. We're all asymptomatic or whatever. But I'm still hugging and kissing them. If you're with your teammates and you're all been tested and you've all tested negative, I mean, there's no problem with the high five. I think the concern is when you're traveling and you go to a hotel, how do you know the clerk doesn't have it? How do you know room service doesn't have it? How do you know what I mean? So it's almost like I feel like they probably dropped the ball here and should have done what they started talking about originally and maybe playing in a bubble like the NBA is doing. I think that the bubble would have been the ideal thing. I'm not sure what they're thinking with the traveling. I think baseball is... I think the owners got together and they were more worried about money, especially here in Chicago. I mean, I'm not afraid to admit it. The Cubs... I guarantee you one of the reasons they would have voted to play here is because they're selling rooftop seats.
Yeah. Yep.
You're going to have the fans on the rooftops.
The price that they're going for and the excitement for it. I mean, that's what it's about. They want to get that experience. They need to fill their pockets. But here, to go back to our last podcast when we talked about the bubble, remember we brought up the aspect of Damian Lillard and how it's, I believed it's not going to work. I think the mentality of the player in the NBA, it's so specialized on single person success. They have this attitude. They're toted. Baseball's got a different culture. We talked about it with, LeBron says one thing, NBA listens. Mike Trout says one thing, MLB hears it, but But they're not going to obviously just be, they just don't follow it the same way. They just don't go, yeah, well, okay, well, Mike Trout's speaking, so we have to change. They just go, okay, Mike, well, thanks for letting us know. We'll consider it. It's a different thing. I think the MLB could have put everything in a bubble and had the situation the NBA has, and I think those players and that culture it's set up to be different. I think they would have actually respected the rules, and they would have been okay with it. And I think I think you're dead on. I think that's a successful situation.
Do you think they can pull this off
with the travel and stuff? Man,
I'm talking about the full 60-game season plus playoffs and a World Series. Do you think that we're going to get it?
Can they pull it off? Yes. Will they pull it off with the teams looking the exact same way as they are day one? No. But tell me of a year outside of maybe the Red Sox in 2013 where there was absolutely no injuries, no changes, no call-ups, that the team was the same since day one. So that's kind of a cop-out. I get it. It's different. But I think they can, but we're going to see it. We're going to see a huge increase of numbers. I kind of go back to the XFL. They kind of had that behind-the-scenes team that could get called up. That's what I'm wanting to know about. They canceled all the AAA or the minor league baseball teams. Do they have these players waiting then? Are they in a clean area where they can be called up if a player gets it and has to be quarantined for 14 days? I haven't heard anything about that. Have you?
No, I haven't. And I mean, we're certainly in a different era. We're certainly going to see a totally different game being played. I think that with the trade deadline with a 60-game sprint, I don't think you're going to see many trades, if any at all. I think that if a team falls out of it quickly, I think that your superstars are going to find, ways to have a sore back or a tight hammy. I think that you're going to see guys that opt out. I think you're going to see a lot more call-ups. You're going to see guys who come up and play earlier than they normally would, like with your September call-ups. I think you're going to see guys get a more of a chance to see what they can do inside of the game. You get teams like the Kansas City Royals or, let's maybe not the Cincinnati Reds so much this year because they actually look like they might be able to sneak in there. But you get some of these, Baltimore Oriole type teams. I see a thing where if I know I'm going into a 60-game sprint and 10 games into it, I have no chance at this thing. Why not bring up your AAA team?
I've got a question for you in that aspect right there because it's a 60-game season. Do we really think, because how many times have we watched a season in the first month of the season we're like, whoa, we didn't realize these teams were this good. And then what happens? By the end of 162, we're like, oh, okay, yeah, no, they were.
But see, that's the difference. You just said it right there.
How many of these teams are really going to be out of it come 10, 20, 30 games? I think you're actually going to have more competition throughout the season.
I think you just answered your own question. I think you said it perfect. You said over the stretch of 162, you see them fade out. This is a 60-game sprint.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. You said teams that are after 10 games are going to realize they're out of it. I don't think you're going to have teams out of it after 10 games. I think it's going to be completely
different. If the Yankees start out 8-2,
they're in it almost the whole
If the Yankees start out 8-2 and the Orioles start out 2-8, they're out of it, right?
Well, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I know.
I mean,
what in a 60-game season?
Yeah. Absolutely.
How many times? So here's how I'd respond to that. How many times do we watch even the best teams go through 4, 5, 6 game losing streaks, and we go, it's just a slow time. They'll right this ship.
Yeah, but it's going to be different this time, though.
Now, if you're 4 games behind the Yankees, yeah, you may be 2-8 and they're 8-2, but all you got to know is, hey, the Yankees can go on a 4-game losing streak, and we can go on a 4-game win streak, and all of a sudden you're right back in it.
Yeah,
but here's the difference. 162 games, you spread all that out to even it out. You don't get that spread out in 60 games.
Here's the difference in the 60-game season is that you're going to have managers managing things differently. If a player like your superstar, so an Aaron Judge, goes into a funk, you're not sitting him for a game. He's going to hit his way out of it. And Aaron Judge isn't going to stay down for long. He might stay down for 3 or 4 games, but he's going to pick it right back up, and he's not going to sit. You're not going to have the same...
3 or 4 games in a 60-game season is far more impactful. If Aaron Judge is out for 3 or 4 games not doing well, and the Baltimore Orioles can walk in and go, hey, he's not hitting, We don't have their best pitchers. One of them is out with an injury. Now all of a sudden, you can take advantage of.
I think that's right if
games.
you're a second place. I think that's right if you're the Tampa Bay Rays or the Toronto Blue Jays or the Boston Red Sox, who may have a chance in the 60-game season to catch the Yankees. I don't think your teams like your Baltimore Orioles, your Detroit Tigers, your Kansas City Royals, your Cincinnati Reds, or your Florida Marlins, I don't think they're worrying about that stuff. I don't think I think 10 games into it, I don't think that if you're already 6 games back in a 60-game season, I don't think that if you're that team, you can honestly, realistically say to yourself, your front office can say to themselves, hey, look, we still have a shot here. Because, I mean, it's just common sense. I mean,
So what about the Dodgers the last 2 seasons who have started out absolutely crummy?
they have to start out better.
So they take your example. If they're 4 games out of it, come 10 games in, you're telling me the Dodgers are not going to sit there and go, that's okay, we still have 50 games. You're going to think they're going to
The Dodgers started out crummy, but they won 106 games. They know their caliber of team. You're not talking about your Florida Marlins who, I mean, what did the Florida Marlins win last year? 57 games? If they start out 2-8, they're dead in the water. They're just not good enough to make up that ground. Now, the Washington Nationals, say it's the Braves and Nationals, okay? And say the Braves start out 8-2 and the Nationals start out 2-8. I think there, if you're the Nationals, you say, hey, look, we're still in this thing. We've got the talent to come back. We're a good enough team to come back from this deficit if they struggle for a couple of games. But if you're the Miami Marlins, you're dead.
I don't think we're far off then in what we're saying. I just think that, to me, because of the shorter season and the way that runs go, and it takes one player going down or having a cold streak, you're going to have more teams, I believe, thinking that they have a chance, because usually it takes about 60 games for there to really begin to be separation in MLB in terms of who is actually going to compete or not. Think about with 30 days to go, how many teams are still there for the wild card spot that still have a chance for it. I think it's going to be different. You're right. There's going to be those teams, right? But I think you're going to that are not going to compete as well. But I think the ones that know 30 games into a long 162 season where it's a big stretch, they probably can see the writing on the wall. I think teams that are within 5 games after 30 games are going to be still going, we still have a chance, and that's going to be a much larger pot. I think it's going to create some excitement because you're going to have more teams that say, I have a chance with 20 games to go, with 15 games to go, that probably stretch out 162 games during a regular season, probably would end up being 10, 14 games out of the wild card and be like, not really a chance.
Yeah.
It's different when you only have 60 games.
I definitely think it depends on division. It depends on the organization.
That's true.
I think, you go to places like the AL West. Every single one of those teams has a chance in the 60-game sprint, even the Seattle Mariners. The Seattle Mariners, they only won 68 games last year, but they're a talented young team. I'm not sure that they have the pitching to compete with the teams like the A's and the Rangers and the Astros, as much as I hate to throw them cheating assholes into it. But, I mean, that's just the realm of possibilities. I think
So, see, this is where I find it funny, is because you said the Marlins, who only won 60 games last year,
57,
and you cut how many?
57,
and you cut them out from underneath the knees, and they're like, no, absolutely not. And then you said the Mariners, who only won 66, 68.
Well, right, because you're looking at rosters.
To me, that shows it right there. 2 teams that are 10-game different. You're saying, hey.
Right.
I think it's just compacted more. I think you're going to have way more opportunities with a shorter season.
Yeah, but I look at the division. I mean, the Mariners play in a much tougher division, and they play a lot. You play a lot more divisional games in baseball than you do anything else. But baseball is one of those things where I look at the roster, and to me, the Seattle Mariners at 68 wins were light years ahead of the Miami Marlins with 57 wins. I think they have a better roster. I think they're more talented. They got a better pitching staff.
You think the Mariners played in a harder division? Are you crazy?
Yeah, they had the Angels, they had the Rangers, they have the A's, they have the Astros. The Astros won 107 games. Oakland came in second with 97 wins.
Okay, we all know about the Astros, about the quote-unquote the asterisks in the home field advantage that they gave themselves in that aspect, and
I agree.
We can go down that rabbit hole, but we know that that type of stuff probably helped them. Let's give it a 10-game spread. The Phillies, the Mets, the Braves, the Nationals, The World Series champion. You're telling me the Marlins don't play in as tough of a division as the Mariners?
All right, maybe I'll give you that.
I think I just listed those teams off, and you went, "Oh shit."
No, I'll give you that point of view, and I'll say you're right in that. But then you look at the organization and look at the rosters. The Seattle Mariners are not the Miami Marlins. So yes, I believe the Seattle Mariners have a much better shot in a 60-game sprint than the Miami Marlins. Because you're going into that division this year. I think the Mets put together a roster that might sneak in there and win that division, to be honest with you. The Mets put together a great roster, and they've got that pitching staff that is insane. And then you add the Braves and the Nationals, and then the Phillies with Bryce Harper and that crew. I mean, come on. I think Seattle's just got a better roster. They've got a better run organization. I think Derek Jeter has done them no favors down there yet, unfortunately, because I really wanted to see that, guys. I like Derek Jeter a lot, as much as I hate the Yankees.
You just gave the winning point right there. Jeter's running their front office, so you're right. You're right. I'll give you this argument.
All right. So the other thing that I want to know is the empty stadiums. I was thinking about this the other day. Man, the impact of the empty stadium is going to be insane to watch, because when you're playing in a stadium, and even if the crowd's not going crazy, there's still 30,000 people talking and having fun and enjoying themselves. Unless you're at a White Sox game, then maybe it's like 4,000, something like that.
Ooh.
But you go to a normal baseball game and there's 30,000 people in the stands and they're talking, and a guy takes off from first, and maybe you don't hear it because of all the excess noise. Well, now you're in a stadium that's empty. You're going to be able to hear your bench a lot better. So if a guy takes off stealing, you're going to be able to hear it better. Mm-hmm. If you're chasing a ball into the corner in the outfield, and a guy's rounding second and he's charging for home, and he's going to take that base, I mean, you're going to hear your teammates and communicate a lot better now. And I almost wonder if that's going to change how some of these games are managed and how some of them are played. I think in an empty stadium that really gives it a really awesome different look and different feel.
It does, but you know what it uniquely gives, and maybe because I was just starved for sports, but when working out at the gym, watching the Korean League, was it the KBO? And even though they were all completely fake people in the stands, you heard it, that it was still fun to watch. But a lot of the times the announcers, what they were noticing was that the playing field got equaled. Because let's some people go, oh, home field advantage isn't a real thing. Baloney. If you've ever been to any home game of any sport in which the team that's at home has a chance to win in any way, shape, or form, it makes all the difference. Ask an LA Chargers fan how they feel about in their own stadium not having the home field advantage because the visiting team's fans are all there. It makes a huge difference. Instead, what they were noticing in the KBO is that the teams got a little bit more balanced because everything you said is dead on. You hear things differently. You have to be careful on how loud you are. But now it's on both ends. You don't have it where, hey, we know being really loud and crazy because we're the home the home fans is going to help us out. Our guy at the plate who are really behind. Instead, it's going to be the same both ways. So I think that's kind of. Do I want to see us going into 2021 with no fans in the stadiums? Hell no. Do I want to see in the shortened 60-game season how this is going to kind of change the way some of these players play and coaches coach? Hell yes. I actually am kind of excited.
I absolutely agree with you. I think it's going to give a great feel. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think that the notion that they had, some stadiums were talking about piping in fan noise and all that. I don't want to see any of that. I want to see, I want to see how this game plays out the way that it's going to be. I think that is going to make it a lot of fun. Call me crazy, but I actually think that this might create more of a buzz for baseball, watching games like this, that fans are really going to start to be interested for a lot of it. One, because you're really going to be able to hear these players, and you might have the guy with the censor button on call because he's probably going to be hitting it a lot once a guy makes an error or strikes out or doesn't agree with a call. But I think it's going to be interesting. I think that you're going to get a lot of things that you don't get. Like when you watch ESPN in spring training, my favorite thing about spring training baseball, and I'm a baseball guy, so I'll watch everything. I'll watch every spring training game you play. I don't care who's playing. You can be the Marlins and Orioles, I'm watching. So, but the thing that I like most is ESPN, when they're doing their games, they mic up 2 players from each team, and they talk to them while they're in the field.
Oh, it's one of my favorite things. I love that. Mookie Betts, when he did that for the Sox, that was one of the most entertaining parts of all last season.
Yeah, and Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant did it this year. I mean,
Bryant was hilarious,
it was gold.
too. I love that. Yeah.
They did that when they were playing against the Angels, and you had Joe Madden on the other side now, and they were able to talk to Joe Madden during the game. I mean, that to me, that's fun. I love watching that stuff. I love watching these guys play like they're kids again, and watch them enjoy the game the way that they do during these spring training games. And even though this isn't spring training, I feel like you can almost get that same type of fandom in there because you can really get more into the game and you can get closer to the players. Well,
I think what we're expressing right here, it's interesting because we're on the same page. I agree fully. I think it'll be funny to see if they put things in the stands like the KBO did. But I think it benefits baseball, but I don't think it benefits the NBA and the NFL. I think this is where we're going to see differences. Hearing the players, seeing how they play differently, hearing how they talk and everything, because you don't have, you go to a Major League Baseball game, you just said, there's a bunch of people just talking. You know, I've gone to baseball games where, and not at Fenway, I'm not trying to tote Fenway, but usually those fans are constantly active. But I've been to other stadiums down here in Arlington, to Rangers game, and great fans, great fan base, 100%. But, I mean, they'd just be talking, walking around while the game was in action. That's all gone. It's just not, you're not going to have that anymore. I think that's interesting. I don't think it's going to be weird. And I actually, wait, who's the guy that's going to have the censor button that has to edit with a 5-second head start for the NBA and the NFL? They're going to be sweating like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. That's going to be the one thing I'm interested there, but I think it's going to take away from those two sports. But it's going to be a really cool thing, I think, to see on baseball. And you with the mic players, you're dead on with it. I love that.
And I joked around earlier talking about the White Sox only playing with 4,000 fans, and that's kind of a joke. But, I mean, they really don't pull well in that stadium. So I almost feel like for teams like that, like the Orioles and the White Sox, and even the Dodgers in the first 3 innings of most of their games, fans are still strolling in. Their ballpark is never jam-packed from the first inning on. So it's almost like those teams are already kind of used to this atmosphere. So I wonder how they're going to look at that. I mean, we did play, wasn't it the White Sox and Orioles a couple years back that played in an empty stadium?
Yeah, it was in Baltimore. Yeah, I watched that whole game. And it was I really liked it. I enjoyed it. Now, would I do that for 162? No, and that's why I think it would start to get a little tedious. And that's why I think next season, if they're like, "Hey, we're doing 162, but we can't bring everyone in," I'm gonna be like, "Yo, you got to do something like sections off or every other row." Or I mean, you can go to movie.
If I don't get my 162 game season next year, I don't know what I'll do.
Well, God, be prepared to quote Scar, because I'm not seeing changes coming fluidly, but I think hopefully you won't have 60 games next year. If anything, if this keeps going, they'll have more ways of kind of studying and what we do and blah, blah, blah. Maybe you get 120 or something like that. I just don't want it to be empty stadiums year in and year out. Baseball could probably benefit from it, and it might be fun, but even that, it would start to drag on. It would kill the other sports. It really would. I don't want to listen to Chris Collinsworth go into further detail about shit. God, Joe Buck, I can't. I have to hear them enough. Man, at least the crowd can drown them out half the time, but
no doubt. All right, now that we've talked about training camps, COVID, and empty stadiums, time to get some action and talk about who we got. With a 60-game schedule, I really feel like this highly benefits the Central Division teams in the AL and NL. I think that it's the White Sox division in the AL. I feel like in the NL, it's a 2-team race between the Cubs and the Brewers. Instead of their out of division opponents being formidable opponents, they get to play against the Royals and the Twins for the Cubs and the Brewers. They get to play those guys now instead of playing the Braves and the Phillies and the Nationals. So I really feel like the Central really got the benefit of that. And the same thing with the White Sox over there. I mean, they already get to pound on the Royals and the Tigers for 40 games out of the season. But then they come over to the NL, and granted, you get the Cubs and the Brewers, and the Cardinals are all right. I just don't think they have the pitching to hold up through 60 games. But who's your winner out of the 60-game schedule? Who do you think is really going to benefit?
So when it comes to that aspect of having the 60 games and how it kind of might benefit a team instead of having to go in the 162, something like that, I think you were right in the Central, but I think you missed the team. I think we see them every single year through the first 100 games do really, really well. That's the Minnesota Twins. I think the 60 games really helps them. They've got a good, solid core team. No high-end superstars. Not saying they don't have superstar players, but I think that they have more of a mantra of team aspect in terms of what they do. In that aspect there. And then, be it my how much I lean on them growing up as quote-unquote my second team, but the Cincinnati Reds, I really think, could sneak up. And again, not because I think they're better. Like, the Cardinals are always finding a way, no matter what. And I know you as a Cubs fan, you hate hearing that, but I respect the hell out of the Cardinals because every year, even when people are like, yeah, this is an off year, they do well. The Cubs are obviously a good team. The Brewers are a good team. But the Reds just, I don't know. There's always that team every single year, the first 50 to 100 games surprise you, and I think the Reds have the opportunity with what they've got.
Well, you just spoke highly of the Cardinals, so it's been fun. I appreciate you coming on, and we will we'll continue this another time.
You can put that in with my Notre Dame takes right there. Man, if you can't respect them in that aspect, like, listen, I hate the Yankees, but I respect the hell out of them in that aspect.
No,
you've got to respect the Cardinals.
I don't respect anything that comes out of St. Louis. I just don't.
Well,
I hate them. I hate them with a passion. I don't respect them. I don't like them.
It's a fun stadium.
One player, I can tell you one player in the St. Louis Cardinals organization who I would give respect to, and that's Yadier Molina. But other than that, I don't like any of them. I don't like anything that comes out of St. Louis. If you're a Cub like Dexter Fowler, I loved you for what you did in 2016, but you're a Cardinal now, so fuck you.
Man, you're an angry human being. Are you like one of the Keebler elves? Like, how tall are you?
Look,
like the movie Elf, I just envision that like elf that gets pissed off and is.
I'm only 5'9", but I'm 8 inches taller than my girlfriend. So does that count?
So she's the elf.
Exactly. Yes. I'm going to tell her you said that too.
No, but really, I mean, I think the Reds and another team that it could benefit, and this kind of has to do with, again, the 60-game type of thing. They've kind of tried to build this, and it seems like they're getting kind of close, but they're in a tough division, though. But the Padres might be another team that could, with the 60 games, really get a chance. They can sneak in there. All
right. So let's get to that then. Let's go division by division and see who we have winning it. See how close we are and see how much we agree on this. So we'll start with the AL East. In the AL East, I will start, and you may not agree with me, but I am going with the Evil Empire New York Yankees. I just think they are built for this. The 60-game season, they've got a killer pitching staff. They've got a lineup that is so deep that, I have no clue how anybody in the East is going to compete with them in a 60-game season. I just don't.
Well, you think I disagree with you, but the difference is that I actually look at proof and logic and statistics and know that they're a good team. I don't just shit on them like you do with the Cardinals. I do shit on them, but at the same time, I tip my cap to them because they got a hell of a team. The Yankees are going to win that division. It also helps that they have some of the biggest guys in baseball, and they play in a freaking wiffle ball stadium. That is a glorified wiffle ball stadium. I could golf swing a ball 13 rows back into that right field. So let's be honest, that benefits them a lot. But I don't think they would need that with some of the guys that got in there. No, the Yankees are going to win that division.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So
Sox and Rays, I think, get 2 of the 3 playoff spots, though.
Oh, wow. Okay. We'll touch on that here in a minute. All right. So in the NL East, I have the Atlanta Braves. I think they're young. I think they're poised. I think they are the team to be in that division once again. I don't see the Nationals pulling what they did last year, which was an absolute miracle. If you looked at their record at the All-Star break, I think the Braves are a complete team. I think they'll put together a 60-game stretch where they might go, 45-15. They are that good. So I'm going with the Braves in the NL East.
I really like the Braves. I do. Here's what hangs me up, though, is what you just said about the Nationals. You said up to the All-Star break. Well, after the All-Star break, they played their hearts out. And then through the playoffs, you saw... It's why I was rooting for them so hard. I love camaraderie. I love energy like that. I love the stupid thing that they did after they hit home runs, pretending they sit down and shifted a car together, even though that's physically impossible. You can't have two shifters in the same car, you friggin' idiots. But, that I love that energy. Now, normally, you go so far into a season and you win the championship, you have that hangover period, and it's not as easy, but they haven't had to deal with that. Now, they have two important players that have said, hey, we're not playing. That's going to be a little bit of a thing, but I think because they built that camaraderie, they're really excited. They got a couple signings, and they've had a longer off season to kind of rest up. I'm going to go.
So you're going with the
Nationals,
Nats here,
just squeaking it over the Braves.
Ooh, man, I almost feel like the Mets have a better roster than the Nationals. I think the Mets put together a sneaky good team, and they're one of the reasons why I almost hesitated on the Braves. I have the Nats third in that division.
The Mets always put together a good team, and though they've gotten to the World Series a couple times the last 15 years, they only
this
get
year
there
feels
on the
different.
years that they aren't toting that they put together a good team.
Yeah, but they sneakily, they put together a really good roster. Go back and look at the Mets roster. They made some sneaky offseason moves, and I really think they're going to give these guys some fits when they play them. I think they're going to put up a fight during the 60-game stretch for sure.
I see those moves, but the shortened season is what I don't think helps them. You need chemistry. You need time like the Nationals had.
I agree, and that's ultimately why I went with the Braves.
Yeah.
So in the NL or AL Central, I went with the Chicago White Sox. Before this COVID hit and in spring training, I was raving about this team. I think this team's going to be fun to watch. They're young. They're energetic. They've got a really good pitching staff. They've got a really good, solid young core. And I really feel like they are ready to win now. I think this team is a South Side version of the North Side team from 2015 when the Cubs, everybody thought they were a year away, and they came out and surprised everybody and ended up in the NLCS. I really feel like the White Sox are that team this year. I picked them to win the Central before spring training, and I'm sticking with them now.
So I'm not knocking the White Sox because they do have some great pieces, including some that they got in trade with the Red Sox.
Oh, you can knock them if you want to. You get back in my good graces for that Cardinals comment.
I'm going to say I love that you sit here and you just did that right there. But I can also tell that if they win, you're going to be that guy that because they're from Chicago, and even though it's not the Cubs, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I picked them because Chicago. Like get off of that.
No,
get off
not
that.
at all. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I could let you talk to any of my friends from here. Trust me, I do nothing but bag on the White Sox. I'm a Chicago guy and I'm a Cubs fan, but I'm not one of those Cubs fans that hates the White Sox. I'm a Cubs fan that hates the Cardinals and hates the Brewers. So the White Sox don't bother me as much. I love picking on their fans, all four of them. I love picking on them.
So you can say that they're from Chicago and you can root for them if they do well and the Cubs don't.
I will never root for them.
So then you can ride their coattails.
I will never, ever, 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 ever root for the Chicago White Sox. But I like you. I look at the facts. I look at logic. I looked at the roster, and I really like this team.
I already mentioned them, but the Twins I think are going to win this division. They're just more solid of a team unit. I kind of go back to the aspect of the Nationals with what they have put together. The Twins, I think they have even more of that. I think they've got a unit that just needed more time. They showed a lot last year when they weren't supposed to be that team, to kind of go on your comment, with the Cubbies that 1 year, they were a year away. I mean, they weren't a year away last year, and yet they really impressed a lot of people. I think they've got it now. They didn't have a lot of people leave at all. They've got great leadership in that clubhouse. They are very smart with what they do. If you look up a lot of the stats on when they batted certain ways, when they had people run, they're putting together a very, very quiet yet very smart team out there. Kind of reminds me of when we somehow, some way, shape, or form, always get surprised by the Oakland A's, like putting together a bunch of scruffy guys and doing really well.
Yeah.
I think that's what you have in Minnesota, and I think they're going to win that division, and I think they're actually going to win.
I like Minnesota a lot, too. Yeah, I like Minnesota a lot, too. I love a lot of their young players, Byron Buxton, those types of guys. I really do like the Twins. I have them in second place in this division. So, NL Central, who do you got?
St. Louis Cardinals are going to win the NL Central.
My God.
It's just, I refuse
to
bet against them until I see them flat out just not suck for 5 years straight. They are the epitome of constant success within a league. They do not go on long stretches of losing.
I hate you so much right now.
They should have. They should have.
I hate you so much right now.
They're going to win that division.
I really do. I
know you do.
Have you watched this? No, come on. I granted they did sneak in and they won the division last year. It was a down year in that division. The Brewers and Cubs are just
excuses.
Heads and tails.
They just
the Brewers and Cubs are just heads and tails above the Cardinals. Their pitching staff is much better on both sides. The offenses are just better. They have better. It's not the Cardinals aren't even going to come close. Give me a break. So in the NL Central, call me a homer if you want to. Call me what you want. The Cubs are going to win this. I think hear me out now. Before you call me a homer and before you criticize me, hear me out.
Look at you. You're already defensive. I haven't called you anything. I think there's great reasons why the Cubs are going to do it. I called the Cardinals, who won the division last year, and you're like, oh, you're a friggin' idiot.
Well, because you said Cardinals, so you're an idiot. So the Cubs...
You said Yankees. I should have called you a fucking loser, but I didn't.
A loser with an A.
Well, that's because I picked them too, unfortunately. So
yeah, no. So the Cubs are an AL team in the NL. They're getting a DH in the NL for this 60-game stretch, and that is something that should have happened a long time ago. But for the Cubs especially, this really helps them out because now you can take Kyle Schwarber finally out of left field. And let him do what he was born to do, and that's just hit the ball. And I feel
he's like big. He reminds me of Big Al.
Yeah,
dingers.
Yeah, exactly. And man, when he hits them, and they don't call him Schwarbombs for nothing. And that ball's still sitting on the scoreboard from 2015.
Is it still up there?
Oh my God, yes, yeah.
Did they put a case around it or something?
They did put a case around it. Yeah, and
that's awesome.
I mean, this team is just built to win. They're built to win now. They're running out of time with their window because they are not going to be able to afford to hang on to all these young studs that they have. Chris Bryant's probably gone after the 2021 season when his contract's up. So I feel like they're gonna come out swinging. They're going to have that 2016 swag again, and they're going to come out and win this division. Though the Brewers are going to put up a good fight. They have that lineup as well, and anytime that you've got Christian Yelich in your lineup, you've got a solid lineup because that guy just flat out hits, man. I hate him with a passion. He kills my Cubs, but he's just a monster.
He is. He's good. I think with the Cubs, it's not that I was bashing them and picking the Cardinals. It was the only thing I think that will hurt the Cubs are themselves. I think they've been moderately... And I don't say it like, oh, they've gotten all the luck, like there's a ton of health. They've had their injuries and their challenges, obviously. We just brought up a guy that obviously had spent most of a season on the deal, but they're just the most of the athletes on that team are built to hit very well, but they're not loose.
They're inconsistent.
They're inconsistent, yeah. And because when they start getting inconsistent, they're really built in an athletic manner in which that causes injuries. When all of a sudden you're stretching, you have to get that hit. And that's why I didn't pick the Cubs. Not because I don't think the Cubs could. I won't be shocked if the Cubs win 42, 44 games and walk out of there with it. But I think they're going to get hurt because they're going to be trying too hard the second they're 2 games down.
I think not having Madden this year actually helps them because you're going to get a guy like David Ross who's going to come in and he's going to have a set lineup. I felt like over the last couple of years, and I love Joe Madden, and anybody who had anything to do with that 2016 team, like I'm sure it feels the same way for you with the 2004 Red Sox. Anybody who had anything to do with that 2016 team has a place in my heart, and I'll love him forever.
Derek Lowe will never have to buy a beer in the city of Boston.
And same thing. Again. Yeah, exactly. And Joe Madden and that whole team, I love them. But for the last couple of years, they've just needed a new voice. They've needed consistency, and that's not what Joe Madden's about. Joe Madden's not about consistency. Joe Madden's about the let's go out and play and have fun, which is great, especially for the young players. They love that stuff. They eat it up. But when you're coming to the ballpark and you're Chris Bryant and you're a third baseman and you're starting in left field, or you might be starting in right field, or you could be starting at first base, and you've got no clue where you're hitting in that lineup, I think that hurt them, and I think David Ross this year is really going to pull them together, and I think that's really going to help them as well. All right, so we're going to move on to the AL West. Who you got in the AL West?
Ooh, so obviously, you've got the whole aspect with the Astros. You see all the memes out there, the new strike zone, which is right over them. You've got they're every little thing. It's gonna be funny because there's gonna be no fans. Like, so what is every little noise? Like, if a player spits a seed and it clicks on the top of the roof of the dugout, like, they're gonna be like, "What's that? What was that sign for?" Right? But I think because there's gonna be so much focus on wanting to beat them, that's going to play into them being so successful.
All right. Well, I don't agree with you again. I don't think that the Astros are going to win that division. I'm almost suspect as to how good they really are in light of the recent, cheating that they've been doing. I don't know how good Jose Altuve really is without a buzzer in his jersey. I don't. And you can, if you're an Astros fan and you're listening to this, you can argue with me all you want, but that's the reality of the situation. You don't know whether or not Jose Altuve is a 300 hitter because he knew a fastball was coming or he knew a curveball was coming. So for me, for that reason, I'm going with the Los Angeles Angels. I think that they just put together a roster where you are going to have Anthony Rendon hitting in the same lineup with a Mike Trout, and that team is just going to be unreal in a 60-game sprint. Their pitching staff is good, and then not to mention, they just picked up Joe Madden. We just talked about him. I think Joe Madden is a great manager. I think he's great with the young guys. The guys really take to him, and in a 60-game season where everybody's worried about COVID and everybody's worried about this and that, when you got a guy like Joe Madden who's going to come in and make everything seem fun and light, I really think that's going to help this team, and I think the Los Angeles Angels are going to sneak in and win the AL West. So then in the NL West, who do you got?
This is where I think it's actually the most interesting of them all, because we talked about it. The Dodgers 2 years in a row couldn't get out of their own way. And it's one thing when it's 163 games or 162 games, but 60 games. I mean, I think 60 games last year, I don't know if they would have made the playoffs technically. So I think the Diamondbacks tried to do and failed due to a couple of other reasons what the Padres have recently here put together. And I think the Padres, because of the 60-game season and because the Dodgers can't get out of their own way and the Diamondbacks failed and the Padres saw it and are able to put some pieces together, I am putting the San Diego Padres in the NL West championship spot. As insane as that sounds.
You're not going to believe this?
No way.
I also have the San Diego Padres winning the
We're going to either
NL
look
West.
like amazing guys or really stupid fools, and no one's going to listen to this podcast anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the Padres have, to me, like the Mets, they put together a sneaky good roster. Their pitching staff is solid. They've got Fernando Tatis Jr., who is, the guy is out of this world.
He's amazing.
And in 5 years, him and Javi Baez are going to be a 1 and 1A for the best shortstops in baseball. I think Tatis Jr. is just unreal. And I think the Padres are better than the Diamondbacks. They're better than the Rockies. They're definitely better than the Giants. And to be honest with you, in a 60-game sprint, I would take them over the Dodgers, who just lost Price. So they're looking for pitching help right now, and I just think they're going to end up in a tailspin. They're going to be trying to hit their way out of it, and with Cody Bellinger on the squad, it might be possible, but I really like what the San Diego Padres are doing out there. So who are your 3 wild card teams in the AL?
American League, well, I think I already gave you 2 of them, but I'm going to go Athletics are your first one because consistency over and over. Somehow we're always shocked. I don't get it. It just stinks that they never... I just would love to see them in the World Series so they can go, okay, listen, the whole Moneyball thing, it was for a reason. Because it almost feels like it was all successful just to be able to succeed in a regular season, right? So I give it to them.
Yep.
I give it to the Red Sox. And I wasn't sure if they had done the 7 team, so if you're accurate on that... man, as much as I'd want to go White Sox on that one or in that aspect, I'm in Madden out in LA. I'm going to go the Rays.
So you got Red Sox, Rays, and A's.
Athletics. Yep.
Okay. I too am going with 2 teams from one division, and it's going to sound a little funny considering I said that the NL Central benefited from the 60-game season, but I am going to go with the Cleveland Indians. Having the number 1 spot. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Twins right behind them with the number 2 spot. And then I'm going out west with the Oakland A's as well with the number 3 spot. I don't think Tampa is... I think they had a good season last year. I don't think they're going to be able to repeat that. I don't think that they are really as good as they played last year. I think they just played out of their minds last year. Maybe if we were picking a 162-game season, I'd pick them to win maybe 80 games this year. The Red Sox... they lost Mookie. You don't know what Chris Sale you're going to get. Is he even pitching this year? I can't remember.
No, he's not. He's not pitching.
Yeah,
and I think to me that benefits it because as a Sox fan, trust me, everything with his health throughout a season, they would literally sit there and hold their breath and then just try to throw things out there, be like, "Oh, he's going to come back. Oh no, actually, he's not going to come back."
Yeah,
I'm glad that they were just like, "Nope, shut down."
Right.
I think that actually benefits them. They can prep because they were literally bringing people in from Portland, the Sea Dogs, to be able to come in and pitch with an hour notice of having to get on the plane,
right,
and to get down there and to like that screwed them so many times because they had to wait. Now they can just. No, this is who we have. I don't know. I don't think that they're good enough to. And they only won 84 games last year. They're just not in without Mookie Betts in that lineup now. I mean, you're down. I don't know. I don't like their chances. Then again, I mean, we're in a 60-game sprint, so anything can happen here. So that's almost the most fun about this thing in a nutshell, anyways. Is that we really don't know. This could be an NHL type scenario where somebody comes out of nowhere and just has a couple of hot pitchers. Yep. So you have the Nats, Cards, and Padres winning the divisions. Who do you have winning the wild cards in the NL? Ooh, man. The NL, this is going to be so interesting because to your point with the Cubs, with the whole DH aspect now, there are some really, really good teams. Like when you sit here and really look at the NL's ability, it is going to be the year that you just look at the teams that don't get in the wild card, especially if there's a random team on the NL that all of a sudden makes a run. Like if out of nowhere the Marlins do find a way to make a run, like there's going to be some good teams that are going to get left out. Period. But with that, I think you got to go to the NL East with 2 of them. I think the Mets and the Braves both get that. I think the Braves are right behind the Nationals, and they're the number 1 wild card team. And I'm actually agreeing with you with the Mets aspect. I think they got a good team. They put a lot of good pieces around them. Got to let them gel, and it could hurt them. But with there being 7, I think they'll have just enough time in that aspect to be able to get in. And then I think the other team that you're going to have to challenge with that's going to be sitting the outside. I think the Brewers are the outside, and the Cubs get in. I think the Cubs will have issues with injuries, but they'll have enough. I think Ross's leadership is huge. I think they get in, and I think the Dodgers are also another team that is outside looking in. And so when you think of that, the Brewers, the Dodgers, heck, even some people give credit to the Rockies in I guess the Phillies in some way. Like there's going to be some good teams that just are not getting in this year in the NL. We really are. But
Yeah.
those are my picks for the wild card.
So I am again going with two teams from the same division that you have. I just have two different teams. You had the Mets winning, the Nats winning the NL East. I have the Braves winning the NL East. I don't have the Nats in the playoffs. I have the Mets and the Phillies coming and taking wild card spots. I think that both of those teams, and I think that they are going to pull away in the end. I don't think the Nats are going to have enough. When you're talking about turning over a pitching staff and injuries like you were talking about with the Cubs, I feel like a Steven Strasburg is the most susceptible to something like that, as we've seen in the past. And then if you lose Scherzer, who last year was dealing with some injuries and dealing with some things as well, I don't think that they're going to have enough this year to pull through. So I went with the Mets and the Phillies. And my third team is also coming out of the NL Central, and I have the Brewers coming out of the NL Central with the third wild card. Who do you have coming out of the American League in the World Series?
All right, American League World Series. I mean, it is so hard to pick against the Yankees and that team that believes that they were screwed by the Astros, that play in the modified wiffle ball stadium, to have the 9.5-foot beast giant Judge. They've got a good pitching staff. They've got a great lineup year in, year out, every way, shape, or form. But I'm not going to pick them, and I'm going to pick the team that I think is going to have that sneaky run. I didn't have them as a wild card. The sneaky run, I think the Minnesota Twins are going to get to the World Series. They're going to find a way in some hard-fought battles, and they're going to win those one-run games, and they're going to find a way, maybe some extra inning games, to get it done. And I don't know. I just think they have what it takes on a team level to really
it's funny, you were sitting there saying all that stuff about the Yankees. I was like, wow, he's going to go Yankees here, and I don't have the Yankees coming out of the American League. I look,
well, good.
I love
as much of a fucking loser as I thought you were.
I love the Yankees. I don't. Let me take that back. I don't love the Yankees, but I love their organization, what they mean to baseball, and the tradition that they represent within the game. I think that they've put together a really solid lineup. I don't think that they've put together enough pitching, even with Garrett Cole. I don't think that they are scary enough in a 7-game series. The team that I do think is scary enough in a 7-game series, offense and pitching wise, and I have coming out of the American League, is going to be the Joe Madden-led Anaheim Angels.
I don't know. Obviously, you have the experience with Joe Madden, but he hasn't. They just don't have the experience. Not saying that the Minnesota Twins have a ton of it, but they've
but you still got Rendon and Trout
in the last couple years. Man, I don't. You could be completely right, because they actually put stuff together. They got a great coach. 60-game season. I mean, all the darts are lining up where you're more right about this than me. But I can't do it. I can't do it. If you ask me right now that if I put down $10, you give me $1,000 that they are going in, I don't know if I could hand you my $10. Well, that's bullshit. I'd give you $10, but I don't know. I don't think it'll happen.
All right, so who do you got coming out of the NL?
So the NL, we talked about it. Man, there are just teams left and right. They're good all across the board. There's going to be teams that don't get in that should deserve it. But there's a team to me that's been showing their value, their strength, their worth. They've been building it. And I think the city deserves to see it because they've got a great fan base, and that's the Atlanta Braves. I think they come out of that National League. I think they are built where they can have an injury or two. I think they are also teams similar in Minnesota where they could beat you up in a game, but they are going to find ways to win those extra inning one-run games. And they've just shown such amazing growth. They've shown exactly what baseball is meant to be in terms of team construction, going through bridge years, building through the farm system, getting the right type of free agents, giving them a new space to be able to succeed in a way they weren't before. I think the Braves get to the World Series.
I want to agree with you here. I agree with everything that you said about the Braves. I think that they are a young organization. I think they've progressed well.
Don't be a homer.
I think that they are going to be a threat in years to come. I really wanted to either pick the Mets or the Phillies to come out there and surprise some people. But I'm going Cubs, baby.
Oh, my God.
I'm going The Cubs are going back to the World Series. They are going back to the World Series. They're going to play the Angels. It's going to be a storybook World Series where you got Joe Madden going up against the Cubs, who he...
That's all it was to you.
Oh.
You're just a WWE writer right now. That's all it was. That's what all of this last 20-plus minutes was, so you could set up this scenario for you and to get
We're
your
going
pants
Cubs,
tight.
baby.
That's it.
Go Cubs, go. Go Cubs, go.
You can never again tell me I'm all about logic and facts, because you know damn well everything I said about the Braves were right, and you even started
but you
your
know what? The
statement
Braves
saying
are just so young. The Braves are so young that they're not ready yet. They're not. The Cubs have that experience, and they still have that core that won the World Series in 2016, and they are ready and they are hungry. And I guarantee you that in a 7-game series, the Braves are going to wilt, and that lineup is going to wilt before the Cubs lineup will. And that is where I come up with the Cubs over the Braves, because I like Hendricks pitching twice in a 7-game series, maybe even 3 times. And anytime you got John Lester going for you in a playoff series, you've got a good thing going for you, because the guy can... Look, he's old. He's going over the hill. I get it. He's on the decline. I understand all that. But he is still a bulldog in the playoffs.
Red Sox jersey. Don't trash him now. He's still got some stuff.
Oh, he does. I agree with you, and that's why I have them beating the Braves in the NLCS. So I have got the Cubs versus the Angels in the World Series, and you have the Braves and the Twins.
Look,
that's how
that
would be fun.
It was. He was like,
look, I almost hope you're right, because that would be a fun World Series to watch. Those two teams are young. All right, so who do you got winning?
Braves in 6.
Braves in 6. All right.
Braves in 6.
Man, would that be a fun World Series.
I didn't pick them coming out of the NL East because of all the reasons I gave you with Washington, but I feel they are not only the best team in the NL East, I think they're the top 2 in the National League.
That would be a lot of fun. You'd have base stealing. You'd have... Oh, man, that would be a fun series to watch, man. Holy
That would
cow.
be a ton of fun.
Yeah, that would be a good one. All right, so I got Cubs versus Angels, and I know you call me a homer, and I know you thought that this was a huge build-up just so I could pick the Cubs.
Holy crap, dude! Don't even do it. If you're gonna go homer, just do it.
Look,
don't you? Are you gonna really do this?
I'm telling you right now, Joe Madden is
a
genius. But I'm going Cubs, baby.
Okay.
I'm going Cubs.
I pick the Angels, and I was going to shut my microphone off and just go, this has been the biggest waste of time.
The Cubs are winning the 2020 World Series, and you know why? Look, if you asked me 5 years ago how the Cubs win a World Series, 5 years ago, before they ever won a World Series in 2015, we had never won 108 years, blah, 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 blah. If you ask me how the Cubs win a World Series, I'd tell you 2 things. One, we're going to win it in Game 7 after we blow a lead, and then there's a fucking rain delay. And you know what? That's what happened. And you know the other situation I would tell you is if we cut the season down to 60 games, because they are built to a sprint. And that's what this team is built for. They are built for this right here. This played perfectly into their hands. They are ready for this. They are an American League team in the National League. That lineup is an American League lineup. They have the DH. We can go out. I just wish to God we would have signed Castellanos.
Those are all the things that you should just have been leading with. Don't give me the WWE writer crap. Give me the stuff, because I told you, it's not that I picked against the Cubs because I don't think that they're that ability to be that team. I will not be shocked if the Cubs actually win the World Series. So there you go. But I mean, just get you're dead on. They're an AL team.
See, now you're cut off. Now you're cut off.
All the rules are made to benefit them. That's all you have to say.
You can't pick the Cardinals to win the division and then say you wouldn't be surprised if the Cubs win the World Series. You're cut off. You can't say Cardinals and Cubs in the same sentence. Don't do it ever again.
So
all right, so let's just get straight to it.
Division? What was your excuse? Did you just cry in the corner and just pretend it didn't happen and say you didn't go by your lullaby script?
All right. That wraps it up for us. We hope you enjoyed the best hour on the air today. Chad, do you have anything you want to add to leave the people with?
Just remember that Shia LaBeouf is probably...
Oh, get out of here. Okay, so for myself and for the Soup Boss, Chad Lounder,
you should have more.
I thank you for joining us, and we know you will continue to join us each and every week. As always, you can find Triple Shot Sports on Facebook, as well as on Twitter at 3 Shot Sports, and every Wednesday at 1 Eastern, noon Central Standard Time on the RTFSportsNetwork.com. If you missed any part of the show, you can also find our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Remember to click, like, and subscribe. And you must tell your friends, tell your neighbors, and hell, tell your enemies to tune in and discover the best hour in sports.
Go Cardinals.
Go away.
I don't know what to say, really. 3 minutes to the biggest battle of our professional lives. All comes down to today.
This game is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here. That's what you've earned here tonight. Their time is done. It's over.